This week on TechRap, is this the new iPhone 6? We go over what we know about Apple's upcoming smartphone. Not to be outdone, Amazon unveils its own smartphone, the Fire Phone, with 4 front-facing cameras and a trippy 3D display. And would you be better off getting a Retina iPad mini or the new Samsung Galaxy Tab S? Hi, I'm Michael Josh, and this is TechRap, your weekly source for tech news, gadget reviews, app recommendations, and social media tips. Amazon is no stranger to smartphones. It is, after all, the everything store. And so, if you're looking to buy a new phone, chances are you'll find one on the world's largest online marketplace. But starting this week, Amazon is selling its own smartphone as it bids to compete with the likes of Samsung and Apple. Christened the Fire Phone, Amazon's new device is very nondescript, an all-black rubberized phone that shares a similar form factor to the iPhone. But Amazon hopes to set the device apart with a combination of hardware and software. The most talked about feature is called Dynamic Perspective. 4 front-facing cameras measure your distance from the phone and give you a 3D-like parallax effect. Currently, Dynamic Perspective works with the lock screen and Amazon's own Maps application. For now, more of a gimmick than an actual feature you'll want to use. Then, there are touch-free controls like tilting the phone to the left or the right to access menus or insert photos. Amazon is also bringing its award-winning customer service solution Mayday to the Fire Phone. If you need help, you can video chat with a customer service rep who will walk you through a solution or take control of your phone and point out what needs to be done by drawing on your screen. Of course, what would an Amazon phone be without integration into Amazon services? The phone includes an app called Firefly with a dedicated button to summon the app. You can point your camera at books, magazines, and other products and automatically get a link to buy it on Amazon. There's also a Shazam-like service that will not just identify music, but also TV shows and movies, of course, including links to purchase all of them. The Fire Phone sports a 4.7-inch IPS LCD display, a 2.2 GHz quad-core processor, 2 GB of RAM, and a 13-megapixel camera with optical image stabilization. The phone is exclusively available on AT&T and only in the US, and is $649 contract-free. In about 3 months, we'll all have ourselves the iPhone 6. And as its announcement looms, rumors about the new device abound. Recent reports point to Cupertino releasing the next iPhone in 2 sizes, both larger than the current 4-inch iPhone 5C and 5S. These are some of the supposed leaked photos that have surfaced online this month. You'll see that despite poo-pooing large-screen smartphones in the past, it seems Apple will finally embrace the phablet concept this year. The iPhone 6 is said to have 4.7-inch and 5.5-inch variants. The iPhone 6 is expected to have a sapphire crystal screen and a faster and more efficient A8 chip. If you're an Apple user, I'm sure you know all too well the pain involved when trying to transfer photos, movies, or music to and from the device. Well, that shouldn't be a problem anymore if you're willing to pay the steep price for a device called the iStick. Starting at $129 for the 8GB model, the iStick is a USB flash drive with a standard USB plug on one side and a Lightning connector on the other. When plugged into an iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch, and using its companion iOS app, users can view photos and documents, listen to music, or watch videos, all without having to transfer files over to the iOS device. You can also transfer files from the USB drive to the iOS device, or from the iOS device to the memory stick and then onto a computer. The Hyper iStick is made by Sanho Corporation, the same company behind the popular HyperJuice power bank for the MacBook Pro. It recently raised over $1 million via a Kickstarter project. That's a lot of iOS users wanting better connectivity options. HBO's most popular series in history, Game of Thrones, is also the most torrented. Torrent Freak reports more than 254,000 people shared a single torrent file a few hours after it first appeared. In 12 hours, the show was downloaded 1.5 million times. That's good news for HBO. Last year, HBO executives were quoted saying, Game of Thrones torrents complements the show and promotes word-of-mouth marketing. If you've been watching the World Cup and have seen signs for Sony 4K, that's because Sony is set to make history at the 2014 World Cup as it gears to broadcast 3 games in 4K. That's 4 times the resolution of HD. Sony had a dry run of its 4K technology at FIFA's Confederation Cup in 2013. This year, 3 games will be shot and broadcast in 4K. If you're an early adopter and have a 4K TV, here are the dates. A round 16 match happening on June 28, a quarter-final match on July 4, and the final match on July 13th. This is the first time in World Cup history that matches will be broadcast in ultra-high resolution. After it was prematurely released in some markets last week, Facebook's ephemeral messaging challenger Slingshot is now official, but only in the US. But if you have a US iTunes or Google Play account and download the app, you can create an account outside the US. Just like Snapchat, you can send photos and videos to your contacts and have them disappear after that person on the other side or the receiving end swipes them away. But before you can even open them, you must first sling a shot back. This ensures you keep the conversation going. But we find this a bit annoying at times. Also, while we're comparing, there are no filters, but you can draw on your photos and videos, and you also don't get that option to save individual clips before you send them, just an option or a blanket autosave setting. Earlier this week, Samsung announced an updated Galaxy S5. While it's not the aluminum smartphone we had expected or even hoped for and not named the Galaxy S5 Prime, the S5 LTE-A gives Samsung's flagship the latest and greatest hardware, including a QHD display like the LG G3 and a Snapdragon 805 processor, making it one of the first phones with Qualcomm's newest processor. Unfortunately, the phone will only be available in Korea. If you're in the Philippines, you may want to consider 2 new phones out soon. LG is accepting pre-orders for its G3 smartphone. Just drop by an LG store between June 18 to 27. The phone will be available on July 4th. Meanwhile, Xiaomi announces it will be selling its Mi 3 smartphone. That's what we reviewed on TechRap last week in the Philippines on June 26 for 10,599 pesos. For more info, check out their Facebook page, facebook.com/MePhilippines. In terms of tablet sales, Apple has been the dominant force over the last few years, and for good reason. The iPad is one of the best tablets ever produced, and so the challenge for any other tablet manufacturer is to come up with an iPad killer. That's what Samsung hopes to do with its latest premium tablet, the Galaxy Tab S. We've had this tablet for a couple of weeks. Let's see if it lives up to the challenge. First up is design. This one's a tough one. Apple has always been known as the leader in industrial design, and the iPad mini with its aluminum unibody construction is still the gold standard. While Samsung has never been known as forward-thinking in terms of design, the Tab S is as good as it gets with its faux leather dimpled backplate and its rose gold trim. Now, while this device is still made out of plastic, it doesn't feel like it, and in many respects, it does look and feel like a premium device. The iPad mini, on the other end, is really made of aluminum, and you will appreciate its diamond-cut chamfered edges. The iPad mini is heavier and it is thicker, but its weight does give it a more premium feel. However, if you're using a tablet over an extended period of time, the lighter tablet will win out in the end. Display is another main selling point. While Apple really builds up its Retina display, the Tab S actually has a higher resolution screen with a pixel density of 359 versus 324 on the Retina iPad mini. While its benefits are debated by others, the iPad screen is almost always spot on when it comes to color reproduction. AMOLED screens tend to produce greater contrast and saturation. Side by side, the iPad screen looks washed out. The Samsung, though, has a gorgeous screen, and really at the end of the day, the choice is up to you. In terms of specs, it's really hard to compare an Android and an iOS tablet because of the difference in specs. The iPad mini has an A7 processor, while the Tab S has Samsung's Exynos octa-core processor. The Tab S has more RAM, 3GB versus 1GB, better cameras, 8 versus 5 and 2.1 versus 1.2. Both tablets come in different storage options, but if you're looking to save a buck, you can get the 16GB Tab S and then buy an optional 128GB micro SD card. The only spec for the iPad mini is more superior is its 6,471 mAh battery versus 4,900 on the Tab S. Recently, Microsoft announced the Surface Pro 3 tablet, and it's really pushing that tablet as a laptop replacement. That's because of declining PC sales in lieu of tablet sales. And now more than ever, it's important that a tablet is not only just a device for consuming content and for fun and games, but also for productivity. Apple ships an app or a suite of productivity apps called iWork. It comes with Pages for documents, Keynote for presentations, and Numbers for spreadsheets. Now, the great thing about it is if you're a Mac user, you can start a document on Pages on your Mac, not even save it, and then continue that on your iOS device. Samsung bundles an app called Handcom Office on the Tab S, but that's only for opening and for viewing Office documents. One alternative is to download Google's Quick Office app that will allow you to start a document or a presentation or a spreadsheet and then save that to your Google Drive and continue that on Google Drive in the cloud. The Tab S and the iPad mini both come with LTE models, but Apple only allows you to use data on the iPad mini, whereas on the Tab S you can actually make phone calls and send text messages. While I find it really weird to see people taking photos with devices this big, both tablets come with pretty decent cameras. Take a look at some of the shots we took while we took both devices for a walk earlier. Now, while front-facing cameras these days are used more often than not for selfies, one of the good reasons to have a front-facing camera on a tablet is to make video calls. So today, we'll make a call to our friend Paige and see what the quality is like from the iPad mini and then from the Tab S. Hi, Paige. How are you doing? Hi, Paige. When you buy an Apple product, you're not buying just hardware, but also you're buying into a meticulously curated ecosystem. Earlier, we talked about Pages and iCloud. Another component is the iTunes Store. Now, when you consume music and photos and video, you can buy all of that on the iTunes Store. And if you're looking for an app, the iTunes App Store has one of the best selection of apps available. But let's face it, a lot of us like to share the content that we consume, the music that we listen to, and the movies that we watch. And Apple, because it's a closed ecosystem, although it's possible, they make it difficult for you to do that. On the Tab S or any Android device for that matter, it's easier. You can just plug the device into your computer and then transfer the files over. You can Bluetooth photos directly to the device, or if you have a device that supports USB OTG, you can plug in a USB stick and transfer the files over. Because the Tab S is a newer device, it has two features that are not available on the iPad mini that are worth mentioning. First, it has a fingerprint scanner. It's the first tablet, at least that we know of, that has a fingerprint scanner, although we're sure the next version of the iPad that will come as well. It also has a software feature called Ultra Power Saving Mode that will dramatically improve the life of your battery, which is great if you need to use it and it's in its dying hours. To sum it all up, it's pretty much even Stevens. If you've already bought into the Apple ecosystem, then stick with the iPad mini. You can't go wrong. But if you're hoping for a little bit more flexibility, a more open ecosystem, and maybe to save on costs, especially in terms of memory, then go with the Tab S. But having said that, whatever tablet you choose, both are great tablets, and I'm sure you'll be happy either way. And that was TechRap. For the latest tech news, visit Rappler.com/technology. Follow Rappler on social media, join our conversation online, and send us emails. All the details are below. That's all for this week, folks. I'm Michael Josh. Thanks for dropping by.